Hi, this is Ed Massiana. This is episode number 9 of Ed Talk, and today we're going to talk about the quality of wine, or actually the difference in quality between the wines of today and the wines of 30 or 40 years ago. The point is that in 1970, now I'm going back 50 years, and most of you probably weren't even alive then, but for those of you who were, you can just stay with me, and if you weren't, you can believe me. The fact is, there were 230, 40, 50 wineries in the state of California. So what does that mean? That means that we needed 230 or 240 winemakers. Well, 240 winemakers in a state that had, 20, 30 million. A few people went to Davis, some people went to Fresno, some people studied outside the country. We could find 230 winemakers that were pretty damn good, okay? Well, now let's fast forward. Let's go to 2020, when there are 4,000 wineries in California. So now we need 4,000 winemakers. Can we find 4,000 winemakers that are really good? Well, that's a good question, and I'm beginning to wonder if we can. Now, granted, there are some guys and girls that are so good that they cross-pollinate with other wineries. They make wine for 2 or 3 wineries, which a lot of people can do. But let's face it, you can't be 2 places at once, no matter how good you are. So when you're picking grapes and you're crushing grapes and you're making wine, you don't have a lot of time. Something goes wrong, you got to be there to make something happen like now, because that's when it's going to happen. So here's the point. Are the wines better today than they were 30 or 40 years ago, or not? And that question is very easily answered. Yes or no. The yes part is technology. The technology that we have now is absolutely unbelievable. It's so important to know every step of the making of wine and to be able to monitor that step to make sure that that wine doesn't have a problem, a bacterial issue, and you want to know it immediately. And we have the technology to do that, okay? And it's not that expensive. I mean, the bigger wineries that have all these fancy computers and whatnot, they can tell you when you're going to have a bug before the bug knows that it's going to infect the wine. So they're in better shape than they ever were. And the little guys, they can actually do a lot more than they ever could in a small lab in a small winery than they ever could in the past. So that's also not an issue. The issue is, how good are these winemakers? Now, the point is, for me, is that winemakers aren't made, they are born. People who are really good at anything, they were born with that ability. They just do it naturally. Are there 4,000 people like that in California? I don't know. And I'm beginning to wonder. Why? Because what do I do? That's a very good question. Sometimes I ask that question of myself and I still can't answer it. But anyway, for the sake of argument, the point is, I buy bulk wine in a rather broad market, and I tend to buy more than 1 or 2 wines to blend together, because not all of those wines, or most of those wines, have a problem with them, but they may have some sound qualities. So you blend toward the strengths and away from the weaknesses, and that's what you do, okay? Lately, and I've been doing this for a few years, like 30, I have really noticed that the quality of the wines that I get in bulk is not very good. I mean, a matter of fact, they're piss poor. And the quality overall isn't anywhere near as good as the quality of the wines I was getting 20 and 30 years ago, when we had half as many wineries in the state of California. And I think part of that is because we have too many wineries, and we have too many jobs for winemakers, and there just aren't enough good winemakers to fill those jobs. So what does this have to do with you? Well, it depends on who you are. If you're a consumer, then, it's something to sort of think about. And that's why, as I said in one of the previous podcasts, it's so important to align yourself with somebody, a retail store, that knows what you like and is going to sell you what you like at the price that you want to pay. That's not an easy job, and but it's not a difficult job. And there's a lot of really good ones out there. Who they are, I couldn't tell you, but all you have to do is look around for yourself and you'll figure it out. The point is that it's a minefield now, worse than it was when there were very few wineries in California, because now there are too many wineries in California, and you can't tell one from the other. Now, 30 or 40, 50 years ago especially, there were a lot of bad wines made. I mean, they really weren't very good, and they were chemically flawed. So that shouldn't happen today. But that doesn't mean that the wines are still good just because they're not chemically flawed. They could be dull. They could be boring. They could have no flavor. And you don't want to drink that. So my advice is you have to now depend on the opinion of somebody that's taking your money, and that's what they do, to give you something that you want to buy. Because I'm telling you, the playing field is a little crazy right now. And the only way it's going to stop is when all these idiots have got into the wine business because they wanted their ego stroked and they wanted to say their name on a bottle, finally go find something else to play with because they're making a mess out of the wine industry. And there you have it. This is Ed Massiana with Wine Talk number 9. We'll see you again.